The story opens on a battlefield drowned in fire and fury. A young boy with fiery red hair, clad in shining armor, stands calmly with a sword in hand. Despite the towering threat before him, he offers a small smile. A massive dragon, shrouded in its own raging fire, roars in defiance. Beneath its shadow, the boy and his party prepare for battle. Without hesitation, the boy suddenly dashes toward the dragon. His teammates spring into action, covering him with ranged magic and attacks. A Saintess steps forward, quickly conjuring a magic circle beneath her, her hands glowing with holy power. In a graceful leap, the boy launches himself high into the air. Suspended above the dragon, he raises his sword with precision, preparing to strike. A fairy girl from the party, light and elegant, cheers for him from below, shouting, "Go for it, Luke!" With a single deadly motion, the blade descends. The boy's strike is perfect. It slices clean through the dragon's neck. The enormous beast crashes to the ground, its head separated from its body. Cheers erupt from the party. Their expressions shine with pride. Luke, now standing tall before the fallen dragon's head, calmly slides his sword back into its scabbard. He stands like a true hero. Later, the group sets up a camp near the slain dragon's body. A bonfire flickers softly in the darkness, casting long shadows. Luke sits by the fire and glances at the others, asks about the detail of next job. The gray-bearded old man looks up and answers that another dragon will be tough one, while Saintess, smiling, looks at Luke and say that he will be fine. However, Luke responds firmly that we all will be fine. Suddenly, everything changes. A blood-covered hand trembles in the darkness. Luke collapses to his knees, a gaping hole torn through his chest. Blood pours from the wound as he gasps for breath. Around him, dark shadows close in. His eyes widen. The dark shadows turn to be his party members. The same people he fought alongside now stand before him as enemies. The old man steps forward expressionless, says that this is where we part ways. Confused and desperate, Luke tries to ask why. His voice is weak, barely holding on. The old man answers coldly, saying that the kingdom has placed a bounty on him. Luke blinks, shocked. The Saintess steps forward, her eyes filled with guilt, asking Luke for forgiveness as this also hurts them, but they have no choice. Yelling, Luke asks why, the pain in his chest now burning with betrayal. Suddenly, a calm, brutal voice cuts through the chaos, saying that he is a monster. Luke looks up at her, stunned. The old man speaks, says that he is the only S-rank warrior in the kingdom and slay countless monsters while protecting the nation. But now, since the monster threats have decreased, he has become a new threat to kingdom. The old man explains that a single dragon can wipe out a nation, but a man who slays dragons alone can destroy even more. Luke stammers, while saying that he never thought to do such thing. Meanwhile, interrupting him, Saintess reply that who knows the future, as she raises her holy sword. Luke instinctively reaches for his own sword, but with a swift gesture, the old man snaps his fingers. Chains of pure magic coil around Luke, binding him in place. He can't move, can't fight. The old man speaks again, saying that, "Rest in peace by the hands of your comrades. That's all we can do for you now." Seeing Luke struggles against the chains, a party member snickers, commenting that, "How pathetic. He is the same man who slayed dragons." A girl standing behind the old man also speaks, that the master magic is incredible. Meanwhile, Luke says that this may be a mistake while looking at the L. Then the old man ordered L to kill Luke. Stepping forward, L raised her wand to attack Luke, while Luke looked her with gaze. Suddenly, her hand trembled. Her eyes water. She begins to cry. The others look at her, disappointed. The Saintess steps forward to take over. By holding her holy sword over Luke, she asked if he had any last words. Luke looks up, his eyes sharp, no longer confused, but burning with fury, said to remember this. With a flash of divine steel, everything fades to black, and Luke's head falls to the ground. 3 months later, after the betrayal of S-rank warrior Luke, far from the grand kingdoms and war-torn cities, in the remote region of Azima, life seemed peaceful on the surface. But chaos was erupting within a small village. A swarm of demonic bees had attacked. Villagers ran in fear, trying to protect their homes. In the center of the panic stood a mysterious masked man, cloaked in black, facing down the beasts. Across from him, a young woman watched in fear and confusion. Her name was Lelam, the village's apothecary. The masked man stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "Stay back," he told Lelam. He raised his hand. "Pest control begins." With a powerful chant, Lugo, the masked man, unleashed a fiery spell. Flames burst outward in all directions, engulfing the demonic bees. Every insect was reduced to ash in seconds, but so was everything around them. Trees, grass, leaves, even the ground scorched black under the intensity of the magic. The village erupted into cheers. Lugo had saved them all, but as the flames died out, Lelam stood in silence, staring at the devastation. Her eyes weren't filled with admiration, but suspicion, since she has never seen magic like that. Later, in the village chief's house, Lelam slammed her hand on the table, saying something is off about Lugo. The old chief, calm and collected, looked at her and asked, what exactly is bothering her? Lelam thought carefully, then listed the strange events one by one. Last week, he handled a pack of wolves, alone. The week before that, he scared off a charging cyclops, just by looking at it. And before that, he crushed a group of thieves, in one night. The chief smiled and asked Lelam, shouldn't they thankful for that? Lelam groaned and rubbed her forehead, answering yes, but still it's strange. She paused. 3 months ago, Luke, the S-rank adventurer, died, and that's the same time Lugo showed up in our village. She leaned closer and her eyes sharp. What if Lugo killed Luke? What if he's hiding a bounty on his head? He never even takes off his helmet. The chief chuckled. Then we're lucky he hasn't decided to kill us too. Besides, since he arrived, nothing bad has happened. Lelam sighed. His logic was frustratingly simple, but it didn't erase her doubts. Still unconvinced, she asked, where is Lugo now? The chief replied casually that he has sent Lugo to deal with Black Bear. Hearing this, Lelam's eyes widened. Then she told Chief not to treat monster extermination as a grocery errand. Determined to uncover the truth, Lelam ventured into the forest alone. Raising her finger, she cast a spirit spell, summoning a guiding spirit to track Lugo's presence. The glowing wisp fluttered ahead, leading her deeper into the woods. Her thoughts raced as she followed the trail. Who are you really, Lugo? Eventually, she spotted him. Or so she thought. Lugo was sitting on the ground, perfectly still. He wasn't moving, not sleeping, just still. Lelam crouched behind some bushes, watching silently, confused by what he was doing. But before she could react, a voice whispered behind her, asking her that what she was doing here. She turned, startled, and gasped. Lugo stands right behind her, shocked. Lelam asked Lugo how did he appear behind her. He responded calmly, saying that it was his afterimage. Lelam blinked. Then she shouts on Lugo, asking what kind of ordinary person used stuff like that. However, Lugo asked her what she was doing here. She quickly tried to cover her suspicion, saying that she just came to check on Lugo when she heard Lugo went to forest to deal with Black Bear. Comforting Lelam, Lugo said not to worry since he has set up traps to catch them. Lelam frowned at Lugo, saying that even knights from the royal capital struggle to capture black bears, and he is trying to catch them with trap. Lugo didn't argue. Instead, he said Lelam to stay here and watch from her own eyes. He placed a beehive dripping with honey on the forest floor. Around it, he silently cast a gravity spell, warping the space like a trap hidden in plain sight. Then, he and Lelam hid behind nearby bushes, waiting in silence. Minutes passed. Suddenly, a massive black bear emerged from the woods, drawn by the sweet scent of honey. It growled, its eyes locked onto the hive, and then it charged. Like a man possessed, the beast dashed toward the bait, its mind clouded by hunger and instinct. But the moment it stepped inside the circle, crack, the pressure collapsed. The bear's body was flattened instantly, crushed by overwhelming force. Lelam stared in disbelief, thinking how is this even possible? Time passed, and more bears approached the trap. One by one, they were all caught, crushed under the same gravity spell. By the end of the hunt, a mountain of black bears lay in a heap. Leland was speechless, thinking even taking down one is challenge, but Lugo captured 10 within no time. She looked at Lugo. He remained calm, quiet, as if nothing unusual had happened. But Lilim's heart burned with curiosity. She was now more desperate to find Lugo's identity. Late at night, Lilim sat by candlelight, writing in her diary. Her pen moved slowly across the pages as she reflected on recent events. Since the disappearance of S-rank adventurer Luke, monster threats have spiked worldwide. Farms had been destroyed, livestock stolen, and transport systems thrown into chaos. And now, even the remote Azima village was beginning to feel the weight of that chaos. The next morning, Lilim stood frozen in shock, sweat dripping down her face, as she heard that carriage had been attacked and all the supplies were stolen. The coachman, still catching his breath, explained. It was the Sylphs. They ambushed him on the road. He barely managed to protect a few crates. Lilim rushed to inspect what was salvaged, but when she opened the crate, her heart sank. It was filled with empty bottles. She slumped against it, defeated, thinking now how she will prepare medicine. Suddenly, shouting echoed through her ears. An old woman screamed in horror. Her precious sweet buns had been stolen. Lilim tried to calm her down, saying that they still have buns in the village. But the old woman snapped back and shouts on Lilim, telling those were S-rank buns. Absolute masterpieces. She can't live without them. Lilim blinked. S-rank buns? For a moment, even she thought about trying one herself. Just then a voice called out, asking why all are making fuss. Lilim turned, ready to explain, and then froze. Lugo stood in front of her, holding a crate. The coachman immediately pointed, telling, "That's the stolen crate." Lugo calmly explained by saying that he found some sylphs making a mess on the edge of the village. They had these supplies, so he took them back. The coachman nodded, stunned, thanking Lugo for saving him. Lilim's eyes lit up. Thanking Lugo, she said now she can make medicine. The villagers began checking their goods with relief, but Lilim noticed something and asked Lugo if something wrong. Lugo paused. Then he said there should be more crate. He looked at the crate again and frowned. Judging by the size of the carriage, these are too few. A lot is still missing. As if on cue, the old woman screamed again. Her buns are still missing. Lilim immediately rushed to check her supplies. And her fears came true. Her own crate was empty too. Lugo realized that he had been fooled by sylphs. Furious, Lugo clenched his fists, then slammed his foot into the ground. Crack, leaving a crater in his wake. Without a word, Lugo turned and stormed into the forest. Lilim, concerned for village, followed Lugo. As they walked, Lugo glanced sideways. Looking at Lilim, he asking her why she is following him. Lilim replied nervously. She just wanted to observe. Unbeknownst to them, they were already being watched. From a distance, hidden in the trees, a sly figure smirked. It was a sylph named Pesha. "Heh, last time he caught me off guard," she murmured. "But this time, I've set tons of traps just for him." Suddenly, without hesitation, Lugo raised his hand and launched a fire spell straight at her location. Boom! Pesha crashed to the ground, coughing from the smoke. Before she could flee, Lugo grabbed her by the head and ordered her to take them to her queen. They walked deeper into the great tree forest. Pesha, now acting cooperative, handed over a map with all traps marked. "She lives beneath the forest's heart," Pesha explained. "These are all the traps on the way. Now that you have it, let me go?" Lugo's reply was sharp and simple. "No." Hearing this, Pesha burst into tears, telling Lugo that he is cruel. Lilim feel pity on Pesha and ask Lugo to release her, since they have a map, so they don't need her anymore. But instead of answering, Lugo pulled Pesha close and suddenly began tickling her. "What? What are you doing?" Pesha flailed in embarrassment. Something fell to the ground. Lilim leaned down to pick it up and asked Pesha if she dropped something. Suddenly her face turned red. In her hand was a pair of underwear, her underwear, which was she wearing a movement ago. Her voice trembled. She asked Peisha that why she have her underwear. Lugo, calm as ever, spoke. It's a classic sylph trick. She used her theft magic to steal your clothes to create an opening for escape. Lelam narrowed her eyes and asked Peisha if that's true. Peisha immediately pointed her finger towards Lugo, saying not to believe his words. Maybe it was all Lugo's plan. Lilam's face flushed even deeper and said, he may look suspicious, but she knows Lugo wouldn't do that. Lugo simply added, believing sylphs is pointless. Lilam took a breath, then turned to Peisha with fury in her eyes, ordered her to take them straight to her queen. Sometime later, deep within the giant tree forest, a storm of fire and fury rained down upon the sylph's nest. The winged beings screamed and scattered in all directions, fleeing for their lives. Trees crackled, smoke twisted in the air, and the peaceful forest turned into a war zone. At the center of it all was Lugo, merciless and silent, his magic blazing through the air. Beside him, Peisha, still bound in ropes, guided them through the burning paths, leading both Lugo and Lilam toward their destination. Eventually, they reached a colossal gate embedded in the roots of an enormous sacred tree. This is the Queen's chamber, Peisha said, her tone playful, hiding something behind her smile. Lilam stepped forward, narrowing her eyes, asked Peisha if there is any trap inside. Peisha giggled. Of course not. It's sacred. No traps allowed. But Lilam didn't trust that smile. Lugo, she warned, don't let your guard down. Without hesitation, Lugo raised his hand and cast a powerful fire spell. Boom! The giant gate exploded into pieces, blown apart by a single blast of magic. Peisha stared at the wreckage in shock. Inside, lying on the floor, was a graceful woman dressed in royal attire, the fairy queen Tiemia. She rose to her feet slowly, coughing as blood trickled from her lips. Lilam stepped back, shocked to see that she survived that blast. Tiemia smiled coldly. Magic of that level doesn't affect me. But her body betrayed her. She coughed blood again. Lugo narrowed his eyes and asked Fairy Queen if that the blessing of Fairy King. Tiemia smirked, saying, yes, and no one can lay a finger on her. Lugo stepped forward, eyes burning, asked Tiemia about supplies that they have stolen from the village. The queen tilted her head, making herself look like that she don't know anything, and asked Lugo what he is talking about. Lugo didn't flinch. By changing question, he asked Queen that what they are planning to do by stealing weapons and drugs. Tiemia's smile widened, answering straight that they want war. Her words silenced the chamber. Even Lilam was stunned. Tiemia's voice turned cold. Revealing her plan, she said that since the only S-ranked adventurer Luke has died, this is her perfect opportunity. Without him, humanity is weak. We'll conquer the humans and take what's rightfully ours. Suddenly, she pointed her finger at Lilam. Before Lugo could react, a strange light enveloped Lilam's body. Her soul began to rise, pulled from her chest by an invisible force. Lugo shouted, but it was too late. Lilam's body collapsed into his arms, soulless, lifeless. Tiemia held the floating soul in her grasp, smiling with twisted pleasure, while saying that her theft magic can even steal souls. She turned her hand toward Lugo next. She activated her magic again. A blinding light surged around her, but nothing happened. Confused, the queen's smile faded. She tried again. Still nothing happened. Tiemia unable to figure out why her magic is not working. Meanwhile, Lugo raised his head, his voice cold. Explaining Tiemia, he said that her magic will not work on someone with greater magical power than her. Hearing this, Tiemia's eyes widened. Meanwhile, Peisha said there is no way an ordinary human could have greater magical power than Tiemia. But Lugo said nothing. Instead, he raised his hands and removed his helmet. Red hair fell free, and a familiar, piercing gaze stared back at them. Tiemia's eyes went wide, unable to believe. Meanwhile, Peisha asked Tiemia if something wrong. Tiemia spoke slowly, trembling. She said that The previous fairy queen once warned her not to cross paths with some humans. The S-rank adventurers. Her voice cracked. But he was supposed to be dead? Hearing Her Majesty's word, Pisha's eyes wide open, unable to believe. Yes, the queen whispered. This man is Luke Othyde. In this world, there exists a power called blessing, and our boy Luke has the blessing of the phoenix. The miracle granted by that divine bird is immortality. In other words, our boy cannot die. With fearsome gaze, Luke says that he will take Lilim's soul and cargo back. He uses powerful and potent magic to restrain the fairy queen and her subject, Pisha, to the ground. The fairy queen can feel the difference in power between them, but at the same time, she doesn't want to give up since she believes she wouldn't be worthy of being called the fairy queen if she backs away in times of adversity like this one. While the fairy queen is trying to break free of Lugo's spell, he willingly takes it off, leaving Tiemia shocked and wondering. She is forced to ask Lugo why he removed the spell when he could have easily crushed her, but our MC tells her that there is something he needs to ask her, which is why he is sparing her ass for the time being. Lugo asks the fairy queen why she would think of starting a war with the humans when she basically has everything she needs inside the forest, like living large and stealing sweets from unsuspecting humans. Forgiving Lugo's ignorance, Tiemia decides to answer the question. Apparently, after Luke's disappearance, monster activity in the kingdom came to an all-time high since there is no one to keep them in check. Other races, like the fairies, are getting hit very hard as a result of this, and even when they ask the humans for help, they are turned down at the city gates, not given the chance to see the proper authorities. As a result of this, the fairy queen comes to the conclusion that occupying the human world and using it as a shield will open human eyes to what is going on around them. Tiemia is confident that the moment humans start fighting monsters, they would hardly have time for them. The fairy queen agrees that the decision she made was drastic, but this is the only way to help her people, or else they are going to get wiped out by the dangerous monsters. Upon hearing this, Lugo realizes that Tiemia isn't just going to war for fun, but she is doing it for the survival of her people. The fairy queen admits defeat and begs our MC to take her life, but at least spare her comrades. In a surprise turn of events, Lugo tells Tiemia to come to Azima village instead, and he promises to protect her and her people. The only thing he asks is that she stop attacking humans, and he further adds that Tiemia's plan might sound good, but at the same time, it is dumb. Lugo informs the fairy queen that there are humans who are pretty strong, and the fairy queen would not even stand a chance against them. The fairies are pretty good liars, and from what Lugo is telling Tiemia, she can clearly see that the guy is not lying. There are humans who are strong, and conceding to this fact, Tiemia decides that giving up on her dumb plan is the best option. Right there, she promises Lugo that she is going to stop attacking humans, but reminds him that they are going to be relying on his protection. Lugo gladly accepts the proposal, and he holds her by the hand to show her that he means business. 2 weeks later, Tiemia and the fairies fully moved into Azima village, and they started adapting to life there. The village's apothecary, Lilim, is not entirely on board with the plan of having the fairies in the village. She has her doubts, but when she talks to the village chief, he doesn't seem to have any issue with the fairies being around. Tiemia, on the other hand, is enjoying life in the village as she cannot have enough of the sweet snacks produced in the village. In addition to the fairies settling down in the village, they also help with other chores, like helping the villagers carry stuff, patrolling the village's outskirts, and tending to the elderly. Even Lilim cannot deny the fact that the fairies have adapted to their life in the village, and in no way have they caused any trouble since they showed up. The village chief assures Lilim that she has nothing to worry about since Lugo has even confirmed that the villagers cohabitating with the fairies will bring nothing but a productive relationship. Lilim agrees to this idea, but something inside her keeps telling her that she cannot fully trust the fairies since they are known to be mischievous creatures. Tiemia rushes over to Lilim, asking her if Lugo likes eating sweet buns too. Lilim tells her that everyone likes sweet buns, and Lugo is no exception when it comes to this. Lilim then asks the queen why she is interested in this fact, and she comes clean about her fantasy of eating sweet buns with our favorite MC. Even at that moment, Lilim finds it hard to resist Timia's smile, which pushes her to hug the little but mischievous creature. Lilim admits that fairies have the cutest and catchiest smiles, which makes this a problem. Suddenly, something important crosses Lilim's mind. Apparently, everyone in the room knows what it is, and it is the fact that officials from the capital are coming to inspect the village. This worries Lilim because the village's fate depends on how the fairies behave. If the inspectors deem the fairies to be a threat, they might use this as an excuse to wipe out the village. While she is worrying over this, the village chief assures her that there is nothing to worry about since Lugo has killed all the nearby monsters, which makes the village a safe haven. The inspectors will come to love Azima village, the old man says. Even with this assurance, Lilim is still worried, and she begs Tiemia to behave herself and also to keep her people in check. Tiemia lets Lilim know that she has nothing to fear because she and the other fairies are ready to show the inspectors the best hospitality they have ever received. Tiemia plans to feed the inspectors all the sweet buns that they want, since she believes that the sweet buns are a specialty from the village. But unknown to her, the sweet buns didn't originate from the village, which means the village is not even the best at making her beloved snack. Meanwhile, the inspectors, Garam and Lulu, are on their way to the capital. The two notice that there has been no sign of monsters as they get closer to the village, which is very weird, given the increase in monster activity over the past months. Lulu's main task as an objective is to study monster ecology, but she is actually being sent to the village to investigate the fairies and the humans. There are reports that the villagers might be getting tricked, which is why the investigation is important. When Lulu asks Garam what he thinks of the fairies, he comes to the same conclusion as everyone else, which is the fact that fairies are more mysterious and dangerous than they actually look. It is known that C-rank adventurers, or lower, have a hard time dealing with the fairies, not to mention ordinary civilians. Upon hearing this, Lulu is glad that she brought Garam with her, as he is a B-rank adventurer who is looking to make results and then move up to A rank. Being the overzealous person that he is, Garam is ready to cut down the fairies if he notices even the slightest movement from them. Suddenly, they notice a disturbance outside, and looking through the window, they see a shadowy figure in the bushes. The two initially assume that this might be a prank from the fairies, but after taking a closer look, Garam realizes that they are in a bigger mess than he had accounted for. He immediately instructs the carriage driver to whip up the horses so that they can move even faster. It turns out that the carriage is being hunted by a beast known as the Death Worm. This is Lulu's first time seeing one, and in the middle of panicking, she still brings out her book to draw a sketch of the creature. Garam, on the other hand, is in full-time panic mode, and he screams at the girl, telling her that this is not the time to draw, because the moment the Death Worm catches up to them, they are goners. Lulu wonders why Garam is panicking since he is supposed to be the escort, and it is his job to take down any monster that attacks them. However, Garam tells Lulu how screwed they are by letting her know that even A-rank adventurers find it hard to take down the Death Worm. Before the two know what is happening, the creature catches up to them and stares right at them through the carriage window, showing its deadly and scary face, ready to gulp them up. In fact, the Death Worm is much bigger than Garam thought, and it has fully cornered the carriage with no chance of escaping. Garam admits that they are at the end, but at that moment, he decides to die fighting instead of sitting in the carriage and dying like a coward. He steps outside, unsheathes his sword, and just when he is ready to charge at the beast's head suddenly flies off. It all happened in a flash, and Lulu assumes that Garam was the one who defeated the beast, but the B-rank adventurer quickly debunks this fact, telling Lulu that he wasn't the one. Standing on top of the dead beast is Lugo, in his insane aura farming pose. After saving their asses, Lugo personally escorts the two to the village, and he tells them to meet the village chief for whatever it is that they need. Garam finds it hard to thank Lugo because his ego is getting the better of him, and the fact that he is going to look like trash if the villagers ever find out that an adventurer ranked as high as him was saved by a mere villager. However, something inside of Garam tells him that Lugo is not a regular person. Lugo then takes the two to meet the village chief, who has been waiting for their arrival. They are greeted by both the village chief and the ever-enthusiastic fairy queen. Taimia's greeting pose looks totally weird to the visitors, leaving them to wonder if this is how the villagers behave. But in reality, Taimia was made to believe beforehand that her pose would turn out to be a killer. Without wasting time, the inspectors tell the village chief that they would like to look around the village since this is the first time they are going to hear or see fairies and humans living together. Taimia is excited to show the visitors around, and she suggests that Lugo come with them too. Just as the two are about to step out of the door, Lulu decides to use her power on the two, since she suspects that they are not ordinary people. Lulu activates her appraisal eye, which is called the Blessing of 100 Plans. She takes a glance at the fairy queen, and judging by what she sees, she realizes that the queen is not bluffing about being powerful. Lulu is impressed by what she is looking at, and this makes the visit to the village totally worth it. Even though Lulu wants to learn more about Taimia, her main target is the masked man, Lugo. She uses her powers on Lugo, but she is met with the biggest shock of her life, as she finds it difficult to read Lugo. Even his name doesn't pop up on the screen, and when she tries to look further, the screen just shatters right in front of her. All Lulu can see is a scary and terrifying aura with Lugo's voice, telling her to desist from prying into his business. Lulu cannot believe the fact that her ultimate power is not enough to look into what Lugo has underneath him. This realization sends a shock down her spine, causing her to lose her footing, but before she falls to the ground, Lugo appears behind her and catches her. She gently turns to Lugo, asking him who he is, but Lugo reiterates the fact that it will be better for Lulu if she doesn't know. Garam notices that Lulu is off, and when he asks her what the problem is, she simply says she is feeling a bit of a headache, and she lies about the stress associated with the trip. Since Lulu isn't feeling too well, the fairy queen suggests that they visit the village's apothecary, so she can take a look at her. Taimia leads the group to the village's clinic, but Garam is not impressed with the building's appearance, and he assumes that it is run down. Lulu scolds Garam for being rude, but she somewhat agrees with what the guy is saying. The clinic is in no way up to that of the capital, but she has no choice at this point. They enter the clinic, and Lulu is shocked to find out that the apothecary is a young girl. Before she can show any sign of hesitation, Leland welcomes her into the clinic, assuring her that everything is already in place to take care of her. As expected, Garam opens his loud mouth to talk, asking if there is no real doctor in the village, as he assumes that Leland is nothing more than an assistant. Taimia cannot believe how rude Garam is, but Leland doesn't even take offense at the entire thing. Lulu lies down on the clinic bed and tells her partner to calm his nerves. Judging by the way Leland has carried herself, Lulu is confident that she is a talented apothecary, and including the fact that she can smell herbs on her, Lulu is assured that she is in safe hands. Once they are all in agreement and Leland realizes that Lulu is trusting her to treat her, she activates her power. This shocks Lulu even further because she doesn't expect Leland to possess a blessing. Leland lets her know that she possesses the blessing of the minor spirit, and because she is an apothecary, she works with the spirits. Lulu cannot believe that there are loads of surprising people and things in the village, but all she can do is wonder just how amazing the village is. Thanks to her power, Leland is able to figure out that Lulu is not feeling too well because the flow of magical energy inside of her is disrupted. Leland then calls on Paisha to bring the medicines number 6 and number 17. The fact that Leland has an assistant provides a moment of shock to the inspectors, but they are more shocked when they realize that the assistant is a freaking fairy. Paisha delivers the medicine, and with her interaction with Leland, Lulu realizes that the two call each other by their names, and this further adds to her surprise. Leland gives Lulu the 2 meds, telling her that one erases her headaches and the other adjusts the magical flow in her body. The fact that Leland has these kinds of medicine in her clinic impresses Lulu, because getting something like this is even harder in the capital, but Lilim lets her know that she is able to produce meds like this thanks to Paisha and the other fairies. When it comes to herbs, the fairies are arguably the best, since they know exactly where the herbs grow. And after gathering the herbs, it is left to Lilim to combine them and make medicines out of them. Thanks to this, the village no longer has to buy expensive meds from the capital. But while Lilim is explaining all of this, Lulu is in her head, thinking about how fairies are monsters. However, she is conflicted on this because monsters would not help humans, let alone show them where to find herbs. Nonetheless, Lulu is prepared to take the medicine because from this, she will know if the fairies are truly evil or not. Lulu swallows the meds, and at that very moment, the headache vanishes, leaving the inspectors shocked. Lulu is forced to admit that the medicine is incredible, and the fact that it acts pretty fast makes it superior to the ones they have in the capital. Lilim gladly takes pride in her work, but also gives credit to Paisha because she helped out. Lulu comes to the realization that Lilim is extremely talented, and it would be nice if she could leave the village. Without hesitation, Lulu asks Lilim if she has ever thought of coming to the capital because, with the level of skill that the young girl has, she will be in high demand at the capital. In fact, the guild will provide support for her, and in no time, Lilim will have a much larger clinic to work in. However, Lilim politely rejects the offer, and Lulu can only wonder why the girl would turn down such a generous and tempting offer. She tries to convince her again, letting her know that top-class facilities and a huge pay will be waiting for her in the capital if she agrees to the proposal. Lilim doesn't even think twice before rejecting the offer yet again, telling Lulu that she is happy where she is, but doesn't deny the fact that having better equipment will go a long way. However, she wants the equipment to help the people, and leaving the village will definitely cause problems for the villagers. In addition, Paisha and the other fairies help her out, which means she can become a better apothecary just by staying in the village. Lilim then continues by praising the fairies, saying that they are incredible creatures. They know about herbs, and they also warn the villagers ahead of time when visitors are approaching the village. It then dawns on Lulu that the fairies would have known about her coming, and Tiamia reinforces this by letting her know that the fairies fly over the village and they come back with reports just in case they see something off. Before Lulu can propose the capital to Tiamia, she rejects the offer in advance, telling the inspectors that she feels very safe when she is around Lugo. After hearing this, Garam doesn't blame the fairy because he has witnessed Lugo's skill firsthand. However, he is still interested in Lugo, and Garam asks him to show them how he goes about his daily routine. Lulu is also happy to jump on the bandwagon, and being one who doesn't shy away from challenges, Lugo agrees to show them what he usually does, day in and day out. Moments later, the inspectors are already regretting their decision to see Lugo's daily routine. They are now inside the forest, and they are running from a bunch of death worms that would gladly make a meal out of them. To make things worse, a giant death worm joins the chase, making life totally difficult for the two. Staring at the inspectors from a distance are Lugo, the village chief, and the fairy queen. These three don't look a bit worried, even though a natural disaster-level threat is coming their way. Apparently, this is a normal thing at the village, and the village chief is already used to seeing something like this. The inspectors manage to reach where the trio is waiting, and the first thing the chief offers them is tea, leaving the inspectors to wonder if the old man even knows the severity of the situation they have found themselves in. Garam grabs the village chief, telling him that they need to call for reinforcements from the capital because the village will be wiped out if they fail to act. Suddenly, Garam notices something off, and when he turns around to look, he realizes that the smaller death worms are no longer moving. It turns out that Tiamia has used her theft magic to steal the souls of the death worms, rendering them incapable of moving. Garam is left in shock as he tries to wrap his head around what he just witnessed. Apparently, monsters are also vulnerable to Tiamia's theft magic, but now that they have gotten rid of the smaller death worms, they still have the scary giant one to watch out for. Tiamia tells the group that the giant worm is immune to her theft magic, which means she is out of commission for this one. She then turns to Lugo, asking him to help her out with the giant beast, but even Lugo admits that taking down the beast is going to be tricky. The worm's core is on its head, which means magic won't reach it, and while Lugo is trying to figure out a way around the problem, Garum is busy preaching to them that retreating would be their best option if they want to make it out of there alive. Just then, Lugo turns around to look at Garum, and this is when he notices that Garum has a nice sword that he can make use of. Lugo points to the adventurer's sword, asking him to lend him the sword for a moment. Garum has no choice but to give out his sword, and once he is armed with the sword, Lugo makes his stance. This is a stance that he hasn't used in a long time, but at that moment, Lulu seems to recognize it. She remembers that she had seen something like this before, and it was none other than a stance that was mastered by the hero, Luke. Within the blink of an eye, Lugo leaps from where he is and cuts through the giant death worm, destroying its core and defeating it. The village chief cannot be prouder of the moment, and he uses this to tell Lulu that Azima village is safe as long as it has its guardian, Lugo, watching over it. Not long after, the inspectors leave the village after gathering all the intel and reports that they need. Lulu writes in her report that there are no fairies living in the forest, because all of them are now living inside Azima village. The presence of the fairies in the village has brought advancement to agriculture, mobility to the logistics industry, and speed that pushed industrialization. In addition, the elderly are receiving help from the fairies, and this has been a big blessing to the village. The fairies have no issue living in the village because it is very safe, and this is all thanks to one person. Lulu wants to add Lugo to her report, but she hesitates until Garum tells her not to. He urges her to talk about Lugo, and how strong and amazing he is. Garum is already thinking of how he is going to tell the guildmaster about everything in an attempt to get Lugo on board. With what he has seen with Lugo, Garum knows learning from him is the best option he has. Some moments before leaving the village, Lulu had asked Lugo if he had any intentions of coming to the capital, but his answer was the same as his friends. However, he gave Lulu some ray of hope, telling her that the Fairy Queen and Lilim might change their minds if she keeps trying. But as for him, there is no chance in hell. However, Lulu has this faint conviction in her mind that Lugo might consider the offer if she is persistent with her offer. As the journey to the capital continues, Garum tells Lulu that they are in need of a new hero, and with the way things are, Lugo looks like the prime candidate for the job. Lulu has also been thinking the same thing, and she decides to tell the Saintess, Lisha, about Lugo, hoping that they will be able to convince him to take on the job of the hero. But knowing Lugo's backstory, there is no way he is getting betrayed a second time. A few weeks after the investigators return to the capital, Lilim and Paisha have a big task on their hands. You would think they are fighting scary monsters, but the monster they are going against is the overgrown weed behind the clinic. The weed has not been taken care of in years, which has caused it to get out of control. Lilim and Paisha arm themselves with their cutlasses and start to cut down the weeds. However, 3 hours after they start cutting, they still haven't gotten past a few feet. At this rate, they might finish clearing it in time for their great-great-grandkids to enjoy the garden. Paisha complains that she is completely burned out and then asks Lilim why she suddenly decides to cut down the weed. Lilim then reveals her plan to start a garden at the back of the clinic. This way, she can grow the herbs that the girls collect. Paisha reminds Lilim that they can easily gather loads of herbs in the forest, but Lilim is thinking ahead. She believes that monsters might attack at any time, and she would be unhappy if any of the fairies got hurt in the process of gathering herbs. Paisha is glad to know that Lilim cares about her and the other fairies alike. This lifts her spirit, and she leaves to get the strongest person in the village who can help them defeat the stubborn weed. Lilim is confused as she doesn't know who Paisha is talking about, but moments later, Paisha arrives with Lugo. Lugo shows up with his own cutlass. Lilim agrees that Lugo is the strongest in the village, but assumes that even he will have trouble with weeding. I mean, it's not like he's about to fight a dragon with a lawnmower. Just then, Lugo tells the girls to stay back because it is dangerous. Lilim laughs this off, as there's nothing that should be dangerous about weeding. Suddenly, Lugo swings his sickle, and in just one slash, he cuts down the entire area that Lilim needs for her garden. Paisha is glad that she got Lugo involved, as he is the only person who can get this done in one shot. Lilim also tells Lugo of her plans to turn the cleared space into a garden. She shows Lugo the roca seeds that she intends to plant in the clearing. The roca seeds are known to be ingredients for mana recovery potions. Lugo is proud of the steps Lilim is making, and he asks her if she has plans to plant any other seeds aside from the roca seed. Lilim admits that she still has plans to plant seeds for stamina potions and herbs for wounds also. Lugo is glad to hear this, and he shows his interest in helping out too. Lugo helps her plant some of the seeds, and in no time, the garden starts looking good. Lilim thanks Lugo for his assistance, and the guy assures her that he is always available to help, and all she needs to do is ask. In her thoughts, Lilim believes that Lugo killed Luke, but at the same time, it occurs to her that Lugo has not hurt anyone yet. Because of this, Lilim decides that she will try her best to trust Lugo. She assures Lugo that she will not hesitate to ask for his help anytime she wants it. And in return, Lilim tells Lugo that he is free to ask her for anything. If it is something in her power, she promises to do it for him. Lugo is happy to hear this, as he hopes to count on Lilim soon. Lilim fears that she is definitely going to regret those words soon enough. Later on, Pesha hears Lilim scream from her room. She rushes in to check on her, and this is when she sees why Lilim is screaming. It turns out that she receives a whole lot of medicine mixing requests from people. All the requests are delicate ones that need time to make and even prepare carefully. With what she has on her table, Lilim has no idea when she is even going to finish making them. Some of them want Lilim to make sleeping potions for them, while some want poison. Even Pesha is shocked to see all these, and she wonders if it is even legal. Pesha and Lilim are still losing their heads about this when Lugo enters too. He reveals that he also gets a bunch of request letters. Lugo is the first to figure out how this could have happened. He realizes that Lulu must have been the one spreading their names when she got back to the capital, which is why they received such an enormous number of requests. Lilim is somewhat glad about the recognition, but at the same time, she is not comfortable with it. Lugo, on the other hand, is 100% not comfortable with it. Lugo reveals that there is one particular letter that he gets that catches his attention. In the letter is a request from the Holy Church of Arat. Lilim is excited when she sees this, as she considers it a big deal. This is the church where Lisha is serving as a saintess. Seeing this gets Lilim really excited as she holds Lisha in high esteem. Lugo then reveals that Lisha invited him to form a party with her. To make things even more interesting, she plans to visit Azima soon. Lilim immediately urges Lugo to accept the deal as it is a great opportunity, but Lugo bluntly says he can't. Lugo tells the girls that he has had a bad experience with Lisha before, and he is scared to meet her again. He believes that Lisha will try to do something awful to him again if they meet. When the girls hear this, they immediately assume that Lugo is referring to a romantic drama between the two, but little do they know. However, Lugo maintains the fact that he has no intentions of meeting Lisha. He then asks Lilim for a request. He wants Lilim to meet Lisha in his place and refuse the deal on his behalf. Lilim is shocked when she hears this, but she can't refuse as it is a request from Lugo. Lilim is the one who tells Lugo that he is free to make any request of her, and as she thought, she is already regretting it. Not long after, Lisha arrives in Azima, and she is escorted by a holy knight. Lilim serves Lisha a drink, and from the way Lisha is smiling, Lilim is already losing it. Lilim takes her time to look at Lisha's physical appearance, from her golden hair to the holy presence that is coming from her body. Lilim and Tiemia are in attendance at the meeting with Lisha. Lilim breaks the silence and asks Lisha what she has come to do in Azima. Lisha calms Lilim down, telling her that there is no need to be tense. Lilim also realizes this and tries to calm herself down so she doesn't freak out. Even Tiemia tells Lilim to chill out. Tiemia considers herself a much better person of importance than Lisha, and since Lilim is always calm around her, she expects her to do the same around Lisha. Lisha then mentions the fact that she has heard great things about Lilim. In addition to this, Lisha says she has heard about Tiemia too. Lilim is glad to receive such high praise from the Saintess. Without wasting further time, Lisha reveals the reason why she is at the village. She tells the two that she would like them to return to the capital with her so they can be of service at the capital. She says this with such a cute and smiling face, but the request hits Lilim and Tiemia hard. Lilim immediately tells Lisha that she has received the offer before and she refused to honor it. Tiemia also tells Lisha that the same thing applies to her. Suddenly, the holy knight behind Lisha points her sword at the two for refusing the deal, but Lisha tells the holy knight to back off. Lisha says the holy knights have no chill. She then reveals that it would be bad if the candidate for future Saintess is harmed. This is when it dawns on Lilim that she is being considered a candidate to be a Saintess in the future. Lisha says Lilim is blessed with such intelligence at a young age, and the fact that she was able to impress Lulu says it all. In addition to this, Lilim has earned the trust of the villagers, and to top it all off, Lilim has a healing presence around her, which makes her the prime candidate for the job. Lisha considers it settled and tells Lilim that they need to make a Saintess out of her. She is confident that the addition of Lilim to the church will be productive. However, Lilim is not impressed by all of these. If anything, she is scared. This then reminds her of what Lugo said. Lugo had warned her about Lisha before the meeting. Lugo tells her that Lisha is going to come at her with a strong presence right from the start. Lugo also tells her not to allow Lisha to control the intensity of the conversation, or else she will be playing right into her hands. Remembering all of these gets Lilim worried. However, she doesn't want to write Lisha off since she is a Saintess and they are nothing short of graceful. Lilim argues with Lugo that Lisha is nothing but wonderful, but Lugo warns her that Lisha will deceive her with her smile before taking total control over the conversation. And if this ever happens, Lugo tells Lilim that she needs to fight her way through the conversation if she wants to stay in control. Now that she is witnessing it firsthand, Lilim realizes that Lugo was right all along. Since she has come to this realization, Lilim tells Lisha that she has something to say. Lilim bluntly tells the Saintess that she and Tiemia declined her invitation to the capital. She then adds that the refusal also includes Lugo. She then suggests that Lisha leave the village. Lisha is surprised at this blatant refusal. However, she is not ready to give up or back off. She raises her left hand, touches Lilim with her right, and out of nowhere, a teleportation magic circle appears under them. Lilim says the portal will take them directly to the capital, where Lilim will be inducted into the church. Lisha assures Lilim that Lilim will be clear of all confusion once they get to the capital. Tiemia realizes what is happening and screams at Lilim to get away from the annoying Saintess. The situation becomes even more scary when Lisha smiles at the girls and tells them that she is glad that Tiemia will also be going with them to the capital. Lisha then tells the Holy Knight to also step into the circle so they can leave. Without having to tell her, Lilim figures out that they have found themselves in a very bad situation. She doesn't want to believe the fact that Lugo was right all along. She defended Lisha in front of Lugo, claiming that Lugo was wrong about the Saintess. This doesn't seem to be the case now. She remembers that Lugo told her to call for help if she needed it. Before the circle can activate, Lilim calls on Lugo for help. Just then, Lugo breaks into the room. Tiemia is surprised that Lugo showed up very fast. Lugo tells the girls that he was nearby, just in case something happened. Lugo expected Lisha to do something crazy, but didn't know she would bring a teleportation circle with her. Lilim screams for help, and Lugo comes rushing to her. However, this turns out to be convenient for Lisha. Since she wants the three of them in the first place, she takes the opportunity. Before Lugo can do anything to save the girls, the magic circle activates, and they all get transferred to the capital. After the group disappears, Paisha enters the room only to find it empty. Paisha is shocked that there is no one in the room, and she wonders where they could have gone. Maybe they all just went on a coffee break without telling her. At the Arat Holy Church headquarters, located in the capital, Lilim is given the church's sacred outfit to wear. The outfit is nice, leaving Lilim to wonder if she has what it takes to wear it. When they are about to get transported by the magic circle, Lugo tells Lilim that they are going to find themselves in enemy territory. He urges her to do as they say so they won't cause problems. He also assures Lilim that he is going to protect her no matter what. Remembering what Lugo said to her, Lilim decides to put on the cloth. Minutes after this, Lilim is all dressed up, looking like a proper Saintess. The outfit looks good on Lilim, and being honest with herself, she knows that she doesn't have the capacity to afford such. This makes her appreciate the title of being a Saintess even more. She walks around in the room practicing to be a proper Saintess. She is in the middle of this when Tiemia barges into the room. She has been changing for so long, leaving Tiemia to wonder what Lilim is doing. Lilim is shocked to see Tiemia also wearing a sister's outfit, and she does this proudly. Even Lilim testifies to the fact that Tiemia looks cute in the outfit. Tiemia holds Lilim's hands while telling her that she has something to show her. She takes Lilim to where Hugo is. To spice things up, Hugo is wearing the white armor that the Holy Knights usually wear. However, the combination looks weird. Lugo's black helmet doesn't in any way suit the Holy Knight's white armor. Once they are all ready, Lisha shows up. She is wearing her usual cute smile, and she offers to take the trio around the chapel. Oh great, a tour guide with the charm of a Disney princess. The trio follows Lisha to the capital, where they are met with a beautiful sight. Lilim confesses that this will be her first time in such a large chapel. Hanging on the wall is a beautiful portrait. The woman in the portrait is Arat, and the bird in the picture is called the Phoenix. Arat is the goddess who is worshipped by the church. Lugo reveals that the name of the Phoenix is Venex. From what Lilim knows, she heard that the Phoenix can heal any wound. However, she is not a fan of this, because if the phoenix can do this, there will be no need for apothecaries. Lugo then cuts in, saying the bird has regenerative abilities. He says no matter how many times it is killed, it always comes back for revenge, and this makes it an extremely troublesome bird. Lisha is surprised that Lugo knows a lot about the bird, but Lugo claims that it is general knowledge. While all of this is going on, Tiemia can't take her eyes off the portrait. To Tiemia, she wants to be painted as beautiful as Eret too. Lugo lets her know that this is possible. Since legends get painted, Tiemia has the blessing of the Fairy King. And by this, if Tiemia keeps making a name for herself, she will eventually become a legend. And by becoming a legend, she can actually get herself a portrait just like Eret's own. Tiemia is happy to hear this. She plans to work even harder so she can achieve such a feat. Lisha then pushes the idea to Lugo too. She wants to know if he is interested in becoming a legend, but Lugo politely says he doesn't want to. Lisha still presses harder, telling Lugo to become a holy knight, and from there, he can become a legend. Lugo still maintains his position about this, but Lisha is persistent as ever. She insists that Lugo become a holy knight and join the church's order. Well, of course, joining a church order is exactly how you unlock the legendary knight achievement in life. She tells Lugo that he can become a legend and stand in the portrait alongside Arat. The thought of Lugo becoming a legend immediately flashes through Leland's head, but Lugo, on the other hand, is in no way interested. Lisha continues to make her offer and even tells Lugo that she can make arrangements for a white helmet to be made if that is what Lugo wants. Lugo finally gets tired of her crap and he pulls his hand away from the Saintess. He then says boldly that he has no interest in becoming a holy knight and it will never happen. These acts of stubbornness shock Lisha. Apparently, Lisha had previously invited Lugo to become a holy knight, but he didn't give his answer. However, Lugo has finally given his answer, and he has no intention of changing it. He turns around in anger and starts walking away. Lisha tries telling him to stop because he is going the wrong way. At the same time, Tiemia and Leland start to put two and two together. They figure out that something is completely off. Lugo earlier told them he wasn't meeting Lisha for the first time, but with the way Lisha is talking to him, it feels like a first time. Lilim is left to wonder what on earth could be happening. It is easy to figure out for the two girls that Lugo knows who Lisha is, but Lisha somehow has no idea who Lugo is. Lilim figures out that Lisha might be lost on this since Lugo is hiding behind a mask. However, Tiemia believes that Lisha should still be able to recognize Lugo's voice if he is someone she has met before. Their attention then draws to the mask that Lugo usually wears on his head. It is common knowledge to the two that there are some enchanted helmets that hide the identity of the wearer. This easily tells the two that Lugo is using such a helmet, and he is specifically using it to hide from the ever-persistent Lisha. It is no surprise that Lisha is forceful, and knowing this, Lugo would want to do everything to hide from her. It's like trying to escape that one person at a party who talks too much, and they follow you everywhere. Lugo continues on the path that Lisha warned him not to take, and he ends up running into a bunch of perverted sisters. The sisters surround Lugo and start touching him. Lugo hasn't spent much time in the chapel, but he is already popular among the sisters. They all want to hear about the heroic things that Lugo has done. Tiemia realizes that there is a different vibe to the church. In the village, no one paid attention to Lugo, but this seems to be totally different in the church. Lisha reveals that the sisters have rare chances to interact with men, which is why they abuse any opportunity they get. Even with this explanation, Lilim doesn't think it is okay for the girls to have such physical contact with Lugo. Men in the church are expected to be single and devoted to the goddess, Eret, but the women are free to pursue romance as they please. The girls continue to surround Lugo with no respect for his personal space. Even Tiemia gets mad, and she plans to get the girls off Lugo, but Lisha tells her that there will be no need for that. Lugo handles the situation by himself. He gently pushes the girls away, and after this, he bows to ask for their forgiveness. He tells the girls that he is on guard duty, which is why he won't be able to attend to them. He promises to find some other time to entertain them. This is enough to bribe the girls and get them off Lugo. They are even impressed with Lugo's manners. Lugo leaves the girls and walks back to where Lisha and the girls are waiting. He kneels down in front of Lilim and asks her to hold his hand. Lilim is surprised at this, and she hesitates to do as told. However, Lugo begs her to hold his hand even if it seems improper. He lets her know that he can't protect her properly if he is not close to her. Lilim is obviously shy with the number of girls staring at them. Yeah, because everyone loves an audience for that kind of awkwardness. The girls are clearly jealous that Lilim can have Lugo all to herself. Lilim finally agrees to hold Lugo's hand. Tiamia also wants Lugo to hold her hand, but Lugo says he can't. He explains that he won't have what it takes to protect them if his two hands are not available. Tiamia doesn't like the idea of this, but doesn't have a choice. Lisha then suggests that they continue the tour of the chapel, and from that moment forward, everything seems to go smoothly. They visit the Grand Cathedral, which holds a beautiful statue. They also check out the altar where sacred rites are performed. In the choir room, the Saintesses usually gather to sing hymns together. Hearing this, Tiamia and Lilim consider it to be fun. Lilim compares the church to a theme park, because there are loads of fun places there. However, Lugo tells Lilim that she is wrong. He doesn't see the church as a theme park, but instead as a fortress. He points out that the grounds outside are crawling with holy knights. Lisha then cuts in, saying the knights are there to protect the saints and the sisters. She adds that sometimes force is necessary. Finally, they arrive at the last facility to check out. It is the sacred sanctuary called Lidilna. The room has a giant golden door that catches the eye from afar. They push open the door and are surprised to see that it is nothing but a big empty room. Lilim notices that everything above and below in the room is pure white. Lisha reveals that the room is the most important of all because it holds the Holy Scripture. In front of them is a row of stairs, and at the top stands an altar to hold the Holy Scripture. Lisha then calls Lilim to follow her to the altar. Lilim is skeptical, but Lugo urges her to go, assuring her that he is always there to help. Lilim and Lisha start walking toward the altar, and Tiamia asks Lugo if everything is fine. Lugo lets Tiamia know that he hasn't sensed any danger, so everything should be good. Nonetheless, Lugo knows he has to stay on guard just in case. Lisha leads Lilim to the altar, and upon getting there, Lilim is shocked at what she sees. Sitting in front of her is an empty book, and Lisha doesn't make things even easier when she tells her that they need to pray to the goddess, Eret. Lisha tells Lilim that she has received 3 revelations. The first revelation is that a girl born of monsters in Azima village shall bring salvation to the kingdom. The second is that the long-awaited one shall arrive. Lisha claims that she has been searching for so long to find someone who is strong enough to oppose monsters, and by the second revelation, she is talking about Lugo. As for the third revelation, before saying what it is, Lisha's face completely changes into a scary expression. Lisha says the one chosen to be a saint must be a beautiful human girl with extraordinary talent. Obviously, beauty and talent are the most important things when you're being chosen for something holy. Lisha admits that she was captivated by Lilim's presence the first time she spoke to her. Lisha holds Lilim's hand and refuses to let go. She then adds that only human girls are allowed to become saintesses. Fear grips Lilim as the mood has already become tense. Lugo and Tiamia also notice that something seems off from where they are standing. Tiamia wonders when Lisha started getting so close to Lilim. Lisha then proceeds to tell Lilim about the third prophecy. She claims that the girl from Azima village visiting the sanctuary is a monster. Since Lilim is the girl visiting, she already considers Lilim to be a monster. Lilim starts to sweat in fear as she realizes that she is in deep trouble. Lisha urges Lilim not to get any funny ideas because it will take Lugo and Tiamia time to get to the altar. She adds that Lilim will be called a monster if she tries to run. Lisha unveils a magic circle and lets Lilim know that she is prepared to hurt her if she tries anything funny. She then tells Lilim to pray if she wants to save herself. Lisha grabs Lilim's hand and tells her to prove her innocence before the goddess, because what better way to prove you're innocent than by being forced to put your hand on a holy book? Lisha places Lilim's hand on the holy book and tells her to pray. Realizing that she has no choice, Lilim starts to pray to the goddess. Suddenly, the entire room becomes very bright. Tiemia and Lugo now realize that there is a big problem on their hands. The holy book shines forth with bright writing that says, "Not human." With this, Lisha justifies her theory that Lilim is not human. Lisha powers up her magic circle and aims it at Lilim's chest with the intention of ending her. Lisha calls Lilim a wretched monster of calamity, and just as she is about to hit Lilim with her magic, Lugo comes into play. In the blink of an eye, he pulls Lilim away from Lisha. However, his arm gets hurt in the process. Lilim is worried about this, but Lugo tells her not to worry, assuring her that it is nothing but a scratch. Lisha is mad that Lugo interrupted her, and she urges him to step aside. She says Lilim is nothing but a monster disguised as a human. Well, that's one way to solve your problem. Just label someone a monster and call it a day. She plans to eliminate Lilim before she can hurt anyone. Lugo is surprised when he hears such a huge allegation. Lilim then tells him not to believe it because it is not true. Lugo then apologizes for the way things have turned out. He tells Lilim that he should have gotten her out of the chapel before things turned out so badly. Lisha is surprised that Lugo thinks he can escape from the chapel. Just then, Lugo calls Tiemia, and she appears from above them. She grabs Lugo's hands while also apologizing to Lilim. Lilim doesn't think she deserves an apology, as nothing is their fault. She blames Lisha for everything that has happened so far. However, Lisha is already one step ahead. Magic circles appear on the door, blocking their exits. From the magic circle also emerge a bunch of holy knights, ready to stop the group from escaping.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing and watching the next video on your screen. Also, let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below, and feel free to suggest what you want to see in the next video.